You got it, T.
See, so how this usually works, and I bring it up every time. Every time he lets me bring us into the show, I always get excited. So when we started the podcast 3 years ago,
Yeah,
3 years ago?
Three.
Yeah, March 20. Yeah, 3 years. I was, intro, Tyler, you do it. And then as this dude got more confident, he's just taking over.
Yeah,
so thank you for letting me.
I used to be scared to death stuck on this microphone.
No, you can't.
I'm a little that way right now.
No, you can't. Hey, by the end of this, you trust me, it'll be nothing. If he can overcome it, you can overcome it for
Gotcha.
sure.
Gotcha.
But anyways, hey, welcome to the One Shot Podcast. I am very excited today, more so than most guests that we've had, if not all guests, because when I grow up, I want to be the person that we're talking to today. So today we're talking to Cade Nichols, who is a local rancher, but a very different scale of rancher than what you're thinking of. Really high quality Wagyu A-Bar-N ranch, and they're in the North Texas area, but they grow a Texas Wagyu.
That's correct.
Is that okay?
Which sounds very fancy.
Well,
and expensive.
When you eat it, you'll like, okay, this is fancy because
I
it
get
is delicious. Anyway, so we're talking through this preparedness series and talking about, okay, how do you prepare for worst case scenarios? How do you prepare for unforeseen circumstances? And food is one of the air and water and food are the three most essential things that we need as humans. And Cade here is going to talk about his story. He's got a great story, how he built this operation. It's a really big operation. If you've eaten at any of the nicer steakhouses in the Dallas area, there's a good chance that you have ordered one of the cuts from his cows. So really excited, man. Thanks for jumping on.
Yeah, appreciate y'all inviting me. I'm excited.
Yeah.
And if you're not watching on YouTube, he looks every bit like a rancher.
Yes.
He's eating too much of his own product.
I'm a little jealous of your getup. You both, and you've rubbed off on Tyler as well.
That's right.
Yeah. I've got the costume on. He's got the real
What
getup.
do they call that? The pearl snap?
The
Is that what
pearl
they call it?
snaps,
Yeah.
baby. That's right.
That's right.
Good.
But Cade, let's go back, man. Your family has a really interesting history. Ben and I, we office in Frisco. We're at the Star, and it's this nice, shiny new building. You grew up in Frisco. Who, for those of you that don't know Frisco, just jump on any real estate website, jump on any best place to live, and Frisco's at the top of the list. It was the fastest growing city for years and years, and there's a ton going on there. And by the way, a tortilla factory from my hometown is relocating their headquarters to Frisco. Wow. Yeah, I mean, it's found that out yesterday. Pretty
right on.
Back in Central California. Anyways, but your family grew up. You grew up, and you were one of the original families that essentially started the city of Frisco. So you have a unique perspective as to where it was and where it's at now. But talk us through a little bit of kind of your family history there.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm fourth generation that was born there. Me and my brother and sister. I tell everybody when I talk about this, it was literally Mayberry growing up there. It was like you watch that show. We didn't have. I mean, it was really like kind of like for a guy like me growing up in the 50s, which maybe set me back a little bit because I mean we didn't have much tech. I mean it was not much technology, and if you've been there now, it's just completely opposite of what it is, and it's really cool. But yeah, we were just kind of living that life, farming background, and kind of going on from there, and then all of a sudden, boom, it just takes off, and so farms and ranches started turning into houses and malls. The mall was the first big deal.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a massive deal. I remember walking through that. I was probably, 12 years old or something, and just being like, whoa, this is in Frisco. I used to play in a creek where that deal was. I think Dad used to drop me and my friends off in that pasture, and we would just go play, and we knew to come back there at daylight, at dark, and he'd pick us up. That was kind of how you
awesome.
took care of your kids back in the day.
Yeah,
That was a babysitter. Like, Dad's got us today, so that means we're going to the creek, And so yeah, I just took off from there, and it became massive. I don't even know how many people are living there.
Yeah,
We moved
for a little
out,
more
so.
context, again, for people that aren't from here, there's two of the major highways in DFW
Yeah.
intersect in southern Frisco. It's our tollway that runs north and south, and then it's called 121 that runs east and west.
Yeah.
Massive highways. And today there's high-rise buildings all around. I mean, you're in the middle of the city. It looks like, any big downtown city.
Yeah.
And what you're saying is, however many years ago, there was creeks and
it was
people
like
were hunting
99,
there.
2000, I think was when the mall came.
Yeah, we would. I mean, we had 4-wheelers and we had what we called the loop, and we'd just run around. It was like 13 miles, and it was just pastures and crop fields.
That's
and then
amazing.
dirt and rock roads. It was all white rock roads. It was I don't think you can find a white rock road.
Just 20 years ago.
I know where about a half mile of white rock is in Collin County now, and that's about it. And used to it was all 20. And if you wanted to run from cops, which I'm not saying I did, but I did back in the day. I had a
But I'm not saying it.
had a 96 Z71. You could be hauling ass down the road, down a White Rock Road, and if a cop was coming this way, he still had to turn over. The bar dishes are pretty stiff. You just sped up because that White Rock blow up all that, and you pull off somewhere, and he keeps going by, and you turn around and go back the other way.
Oh, man.
We had a
Simple
lot
times.
of fun. It was definitely a different world.
Yeah.
But it was a cool place. But it's been pretty awesome to watch.
Yeah.
What's happened and it just keeps moving too. It's up, we're up in Salina now.
Yeah.
And that's where we have a lot of our cattle at, in Salina and Sherman, and it keeps creeping on up there.
Yeah, it's insane, and it's obviously over the last 13 years or so, it's picked up speed. But yeah, I mean, for those of you again that aren't familiar, Frisco and like West Plano, from a like size wise, it's actually from a workforce, it's bigger than Fort Worth. Like there's more daytime workers in Frisco than Fort Worth. So you think DFW. Yeah. At some point, it's going to be like DFFW, right? Dallas, Frisco, Fort Worth, because it's going to be kind of its own metro. But, I mean, you got the Cowboys headquartered there. You've got FC Dallas there.
Stars.
You've got Dallas Stars. They're all there. So there's 8 professional sports teams there. But not only that, from a corporate headquarters standpoint, between West Plano, there's like 20-plus Fortune 500 companies that are headquartered there. So it's insane, and it started as literally just a farm town.
Yeah,
and I've heard stories that there were some office buildings being built. Hall Park, the first one up there, and like people would literally they'd hunt coyotes in the morning, early in the morning, and then just roll right into the office, like right out in the parking lot. And it's just different. And now where it's at, but your family went through that, and then in the early 2000s, right as that growth was starting, your dad had the foresight to say, "Hey, look, we're gonna go up north to Salina," and talk about that move, going from which I guess Frisco at that time was probably like 10,000 people, 20,000 people,
probably 10, 12,000.
Yeah,
would be my guess. Yeah, he'd started. He kind of, Dad always worked for himself and did a lot of different things. And we talked about moving to Salina a lot because, like I said, it was Mayberry. My best friends were my cousins. I had 4 older cousins basically that lived right there. We all lived right there. They moved to Salina. We talked about it. We had land up there that we wanted to build on. And anyways, my grandma got cancer, so we stayed in Frisco a little bit longer than we were planning on. But Dad still had his office in Frisco, and so he decided at that time they were going to move up to Salina, get back to a smaller, 10,000 people. That's a lot of people.
Big city now. Yeah.
That's a big city. So we were like, hey, let's go ahead and get up there. I'll drive the 15 minutes it takes, because at that time between Frisco
was just
and
Preston.
Salina, there was Preston Road, and there was one blinking yellow light.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so it was no big deal.
Yeah.
And so we did that, moved up to Salina. Obviously he was still, doing what he did in Frisco, and still does a lot in Frisco and Salina, Prosper, all that North Texas area. And moved up there, and I think moved up there, and that's where I ended up going to high school.
Yeah.
And
which Salina, especially then, right, had a really long like tradition of just like being a really cool place. Like if you saw Boys of Fall, Kenny Chesney's music video, right, it's kind of based loosely around Salina football. And at one point, I'm not sure if it still holds, but Salina has more state championship football state championships in any school in Texas. I don't know if that's still the case. There's a couple schools that have been.
They're right there. If they're, I think one school, maybe one school overtook them a couple years ago.
That's a big deal.
I haven't kept up,
Yeah.
But yeah, it was.
And you were a part of that, right?
It was like watching like the Friday Night Lights. That's what it was growing up. That's what moving to Salina was like. And I was more of a baseball. I loved football, but I was more of a baseball guy. But when I moved up there, like you're playing football.
Yeah,
I'm like, yes, sir.
Yeah.
All right. You need to run through that wall. All right. I mean, like it was some wild things up there that but it was a lot of fun, and it was weird. I mean, going the football deal. We were 2A. I can't remember. I graduated less than 100 kids. I don't remember how many it was, 70 something, or maybe 60 something, and the four Dallas State, 4, 5, 8, and 11. We were on a big win streak. They would come down every day and like be at practices and stuff. And we had a documentary crew follow us the entire senior year. It was weird things for like a small town,
Yeah.
So it was pretty interesting. I haven't really thought about it in a long time.
So growing up, were you continued to like help your dad ranch and that was a part of kind of every day who you were growing up, or was it something that like after high school you got more into?
Yeah, it was definitely, I got more into it after high school. Yeah. Grew up with that as a basis. Like I said, my dad was the first one to really kind of not do that as his main profession. Yeah. He had watched the struggle and he had watched all that, and he knew there was a better way. But when it's in your blood, it's in your blood. Yeah. And he loves it, and he loves it to this day. Mm-hmm. And we have a very good connection because we love talking about it with one another. And I wouldn't definitely not be what I'm doing right now if it wasn't for him. And we'll get into all that. It was him and his thoughts on that. But so I kind of grew up. It was like, all right, hey, you're not going to school today. We're going to process, calves. We're just going to eat. So we got to my pawpaws. We'd get one up, take a processor, and we'd go through the whole process with them. We would, my uncle was one of the biggest farmers in this area, and so summers I'd work with him in the summers and all that kind of thing. And then I think at one point Dad was like, oh man, he's eat up with it. Mm-hmm. So I think at that point he was like, okay, I know it's a tough way to make a living. Mm-hmm. So then he changed his direction on how he wanted, because I was the oldest, changed his direction on how he wanted to raise kids a little bit. And he was like, maybe I don't want to, I want him to have that as a basis, but also I know it's a tough way to go. Yeah. And so I really, I grew up really doing a lot more farming. I was around a lot of cattle. We had a lot of cattle, or we didn't have a bunch of cattle, but we had cattle. Mm-hmm. We were around them. And we always did those things, but it was never, your day-to-day. Now, in the summer it was. Like when I was farming, I was, it was 16, 18 hours a day. Yeah. And like I'd be like seventh grade, I don't even know how old I was. My mom would give me a thermos of coffee. I'm like, I drink black. She'd wake me up at 6 and be like, here's your coffee. And then, drive down, we drive to Prosper's headquarters down there at Prosper off Fish Trap Road. And
which is a major highway now.
Yeah, which is. It's so weird, man. It's so weird. And he actually, probably, gosh, I can't even remember. He quit farming, and then they sold their land in Prosper and then bought a ranch up in Oklahoma, and so he finished out up there. But yeah, it came back to it, and then so it's been pretty wild.
Talk to us. You alluded to it a couple times. It is a tough life. So talk to us about that. Just the labor side of it, because now we've got so many jobs where, like Tyler and I, we could sit at a desk all day long and be really good at what we do, and not move a finger pretty much all day long. Whereas that way of life is the polar opposite. Yeah,
it is, and I've seen, and it's kind of interesting. I've seen all phases of I shouldn't say all phases because I definitely haven't, but I've seen a lot of the different phases of the ag industry, the cattle side of the business. When I was in college, and I started cowboying a lot in college, and I worked on the farm in college down at A&M, and we're getting ready to graduate. My dad's like, "What do you want to do?" And I'm like, "What do you mean? What I want to do? I'm going to run cattle." He's like, "Man, you've never really done anything else. Like, it's a really tough way to go. Like, maybe try something else." So I did that for like 5 years, and made pretty good money, and I hated it.
What were you doing?
I did oil and gas.
Okay.
Yeah. I was a landman, and so did that for like 5 years, And
just behind a windshield all the time. Just
I mean, I was living in motels and doing all that stuff. Made good money. I was hunting. I thought, you know, it was awesome. I mean, it wasn't. I loved the hunting part of it, but the money was good, but I just didn't enjoy it.
Yeah.
And then I'd actually quit my job, and my dad had called me, and he's like, I think I was actually 4 years in, not 5 years, because my dad was like, please give me 5 years or something. If you don't do it, then you know, just try something else, because it's and it was like 4 years in, and he called me, and I started buying my own cows, and Dad had a pretty good size herd up, and I was coming back on a lot of free weekends and helping manage everything, and he'd called me and was like, if I remember how, he was like, hey, I know it hadn't been 5 years, but, you know, I could really use some help. And I'm like, hey, I just quit my job. Because I was so sick of this. I was like, I was just going to figure, I didn't know what I was going to do. But so, yeah, I just so happened to quit my job. And that's kind of when we really dove off into the Wagyu side of things. Did not know what we were going to do. But
so it was kind of at that point where you're like, that's the direction from here? Or had he been doing that?
No, he just started. Okay. They just started, and he had a partner that lives down. He has a partner that he's done a lot of business deals with and real estate, and they've been a huge part of all this. A lot of, you know, but anyways, yeah, I remember he called me and he was like, sort off 100 head. We got this program, like 100 head of cows. This guy's going to bring up these bulls. And these 4 bulls, and we'll put them out on this 100 head, and we'll see how it goes, right? We're going to dip our toe in the water, this Wagyu deal. I was like, what the hell's a Wagyu? I mean, dude, because my profession, people are very old school, man. Yeah. They're stuck in their ways, and they don't like to think outside the box a lot, which...
Yeah, this is how my grandpa did it. This is how my dad did it.
This is how Daddy did it. This is how Granddaddy did it. This is how I'm going to do it, which... And I'm not trying to talk down anybody, but sometimes, you know, and I don't... Like, all of them are hard workers, and you got a lot of respect for them. You learn from all, but times change, you know, and things change. And I was probably more of a thinker like that than my dad was, to be honest with you. My dad was like, and I was like, these bulls showed up, and I'm like, I called him. I was like, better be glad these ain't my cows, because I wouldn't put these ugly sons of bitches out there. You know, like, they were not good. Like, they're ugly bulls, which Wagyu are not pretty animals. Not pretty on the outside, real pretty on the inside. Is what I would say now, you know. Now, I've been raising them for a long time, so we're raising them to be a little more. They look a little bit better now. Yeah. But back then, I mean, 15 years ago, they just weren't. They, you know, there's, I don't want to get too in detail on it all, but Wagyu has basically, you know, the really high marblers, which is what you want to cross with your beef cows to get the best marbling, are the ugliest of them. Basically, they have no ass on them. They look like a gutted snowbird, I always say, and they have a hatchet ass. And anyways, these things show up, and he's like, just turn them out. And I'm like, all right, they're not my cows, whatever. I'll turn them out on your cows. And I never seen anything like it. Within like 2 weeks, 3 of them had one of them had a broke leg, and 2 of them had broke peckers, because they were that aggressive of breeders. They're the most aggressive breeders I'd ever seen.
By aggressive, horny.
And very horny.
Dogs.
And like one would be up breeding, and another one, he was like, no, that's my girl, and he'd knock her off. And so we learned, like, and really to this day, I mean, now, which I'd never seen with any other breed. That, I mean, you'll see it occasionally, but nothing that drastic. And so we actually had to start separating the cattle and go different ones. And then once we started raising them all together, then it was fine. You can run them together. But these were some troubles that we had. This was like the first dip into that deal.
Yeah. So this is a stupid question, but what classifies a bull as a Wagyu or a cow as an actual Wagyu classification? Because it's not a breed, right? It's a classification, right?
Yeah, I mean, technically Wagyu just means Japanese cow.
Right.
And but it is a breed. There are breed associations. Like, I'm on the board of the American Wagyu Association, and there's a Australian Wagyu Association. There's all kinds of different ones, but those genetics were sent over here from Japan.
Okay.
And so that's what most people, they say, oh, well, you hear Texas Wagyu or whatever, and you hear, oh, there's not really Wagyu in America. Well, there actually is 100% Wagyu in America.
Okay.
And we have a good number of them, but they were either, you know, males sent over here from Japan, or embryos that were exported and things like that you use embryo transfer, IVF programs on them, and that's how you raise them. And so everything that we have as far as our 100% Wagyu is DNA, like you take a DNA sample out of their ear. It's all sent into it, and it gets DNA tested back to the sire and dam. And so you have this whole this
line,
whole deal.
Lineage. Okay.
Yeah, and that's how and that's how you know, like most of the Wagyu that you're gonna eat in restaurants and stuff in America is gonna be is going to be an F1, which is going to be like a 50%. So it's going to be a Wagyu bull probably crossed with some sort of other breed, whether it be Angus, Hereford, Holstein, whatever, like people
where did the 4 original that you all started with, where'd they come from?
Those actually just came. There was a dentist down in I think it's I'm drawing a blanket. Les Crane was his name, and I think he's passed on now. And Les, I think he was one of the original starters of the Texas Wagyu Association, and how it all happened. I think they were just, like I said, the industry's tough, and my dad's an outside the box thinker on stuff, and his partner, I think they'd eaten some Wagyu, and they're like, well, let's raise some. It's delicious. And so I think they just looked around. They found this guy that was in Texas. I think he was down in Wimberley, and he come pulling up, and he had 4 registered. You get your registration paperwork and all that stuff, and he come pulling up with these bulls. And so the program at that time, what we had signed on to do was we buy the bulls and then we breed the cows, and then we were going to sell the calves at a premium.
I was just going to ask what the business model was.
Above market price. So we thought, okay, well, if we're getting, if we can make a little bit extra money, we'll try it. And so we didn't take all the cattle. We just took 100 head, and we're going to try it. And that's kind of how it got going.
And who were you selling to at that time?
We were selling to as a company out of Nebraska.
Okay, so you had one buyer that was buying all those calves.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and we'd work to deal with them. Because we didn't know what we wanted to do. So like they were going to buy the calves, and we'd kind of stay in contact where we could when they harvest them, we could go look at them, or we could kind of get some data back from them. We wanted to see feed out data, because there's a lot of different things that go into this. The Wagyu animal is just so completely different than any other breed any breed that I know about, really, to be associated with.
So at this time, could individuals call y'all up and say, "Hey, I want some meat"?
After a calf's born, it takes about 2 years to get a. At that time, it actually took about 28 to 30 months, and we're down to more like 22 to 24 months on that product. But yeah, individuals can call it.
So what's the process? The difference between like a Wagyu, like breed, and like just an Angus or a Hereford or something like that. That's just your typical meat cow. So I think the thought is that it's okay, all grass fed, all this, all that. Is it really different than in raising Wagyu versus your traditional cow?
It can be.
Okay.
and so you have to, everything you do has got to be economical, right?
Yeah,
So like I said, I'm probably a little more old school than even my dad or anything like that. And so I'm like, look, these cows, they work for me. They got to make a living. And so how does that work? And really, once we started raising these bulls, I learned a lot of Japanese names and learned a lot. Like in cattle in America, we have something called EPDs, that helps you like determine different traits that you're looking for to add on. Well, they didn't really have that. It was just like, this bull does this, and this bull does this, and there wasn't a whole lot to select from. It was a decent amount, but not what you can get here. And you had to go in there and dive in and learn all this stuff and grow these bulls. But as far as raising them, really, I mean, we try to look at cost. The reason that Wagyu, one reason, besides it tasting just way better, and some of the health benefits and things like that go along with it, it does take longer to feed one out.
Okay. And
so that's generally why the excess cost, it's a little bit higher. One is better, and two, it's cost us more to get it to you. And so, but typically, breed a cow, she's basically got 9 months, has a calf, she raises it for 7 months, wean that calf, and then it depends on the time of year, fall calver, spring calver. If we can go to wheat or an alternative grass source, that keeps our costs down.
Yeah.
There's some people who in the Wagyu game think that harms the flavor of the meat. what we do, if they are out on a weed or something like that, we try to give them about a pound a head a day of our special ration. Work with a nutritionist he specializes in Wagyu. Yeah. He sells product to the Japanese actually, and he's right here in Texas. And Jimmy Horner's a fantastic guy, great family, and anyway, so if we go to wheat, if we don't, then you said you're from Abilene. We got a place just north of Abilene that is what I call a preconditioning yard, and basically we can bring all those cattle in, and then we put them on that special ration that Jimmy has formulated, and then we get them up to about 750 pounds, and then we go to the Texas Panhandle, to another family I actually went to college with.
Is that because it's colder there?
It's no humidity.
Okay.
So like if you go down to we tested 7 different feed yards before we decided where we're going to start feeding these cattle at. Huh. And you can feed them a little bit cheaper, but you get transportation cost up in the Midwest. But we were big on trying to stay in Texas as well. Yeah. That was something that we wanted to do. And if you go down like South Texas, you'll see it, like, you go to a yard down there, everything has like a lot of ear to it, and like floppy eared cows, Bramer influence, Brangus influence cattle, and that's because they do better in that environment. So most of our cattle that we're feeding out, they're not 100% Wagyu. We do raise 100% Wagyu. We tend to feed those out on our own place here in Salina or Sherman. Okay. They stay here because we don't sell a whole lot of those. It's just kind of a subsidiary market, really. And then we have, so what goes up there is mostly an Angus, Charolais, Hereford type of cross with our Wagyu bulls. Got it. And so those do a lot better up in that climate because it's low humidity and they don't have a ton of rain and all that stuff. So the yard's not getting just really muddy and bogged down. It's easier on them,
Isn't it crazy? Like, you think, okay, hey, you got a field, you got cows, like the details, right? Especially now, right? With the science behind it and understanding, okay, hey, what humidity, what climate does, okay, overall transportation costs. I mean, all of the details that go into, because like you said, the cattle industry has changed and it's gotten harder. It's gotten a lot harder because you've got, really big operations that take up a lot of the market. So you've got to be different. That's why like the direct to consumer model has started to pick up over the last decade or so. So it's completely different. Completely, but there's so much thought that goes into it, and it like fascinates me to like just kind of like as I'm like starting to like get into this industry, and I say get into this, starting to learn about this industry more. Like it's just like I love it, because there's so many cool like avenues that you can go that are different, and like okay, what are the innovative people doing, but how can I also be different? And so there's like a ton of entrepreneurship associated with it. And that's what you're building, right? What you and your dad's initial idea was completely different than anybody was doing at that time. Yeah.
Where my mind goes is it's the jobs that we don't give enough credit to, like what you're doing. I think about like even something it's simple, like trash. People that pick up our trash. You don't think about it. I just put my cans out on the road and don't really think much about it beyond that. But that keeps our society going. What you're doing keeps society moving forward. And so that people like me, I can show up to a restaurant and have this awesome meal because of the work that your group's willing to do. And so I don't think we think about that a lot of times of all the work that goes into just putting this food onto my plate.
Yeah. And not only that is the demonization, right? That has taken place coming from a very uneducated place, right? People just make crap up about stuff that they don't know anything about, and it's this and this causes cancer and that causes and it's so funny like listening to like actual like nutritionists and scientists, like Huberman or the guys that Rogan's had on and stuff like that are like, the hell are you talking about? Like
when people say
causes cancer.
When people say that, I'm like, oh, so it's not the 6-pack of cigarettes that you're smoking every day.
For sure. No worries.
It's the meat. Yeah, for sure.
It's definitely the meat. But as you've gone through this, you've probably faced criticism and you've probably faced pushback from, I'll call it like it is, right? Is the left, right? That want to demonize and say, vegan's the only way to go, and you've got to do this and save the environment. And there's emissions that come from cows that are killing our environment. The same people that also like fly on planes, every other day. It just blows my mind. How have you handled that? Or is it like, look, it's going to happen. I'm just going to stay in my lane.
Yeah. I mean, I think I pick and choose my battles. Try to. We've definitely had some, I mean, I've had people, we were hauling, I used to have a lease in College Station. We were hauling cattle up to Salina. We were getting off that lease and had people follow our trucks all the way from Dallas into Salina. Lady get out with, I probably should have sold her these cows with the biggest ring I've ever seen in my life in her Mercedes, and was just, I think she maybe off some meds or something, but she was going insane and like screaming, throwing a fit, and basically offered me this ring for all these cattle. And the look of it, I probably should have taken it. Probably been worth it. But I mean,
I'm gonna try that next time. I'm gonna put my wife. I'm gonna put her in a big old fake ring.
Yeah. That was my deal. I was like, if I could have called the jeweler out there, I might have been like, where do you want me to haul these for you, ma'am? Because they weren't. Yeah. Anyways, but it's you get some things like that now that Salina is growing.
Yeah.
Like Salina's a fantastic place. Frisco's still a fantastic place, and there's great people, but it's not all the people that I grew up with. Yeah. And it's funny, people are like, oh, I've been there forever. I moved in 2010. And I'm like, and this is how this town works. I'm like, no, dude, you don't have a clue.
Yeah.
But they're still good people. And so, we've got a lot of cattle. We try to do our best. Like if an animal dies, I lose money.
Yeah.
So we'll be up at, I've spent nights underneath a barn, like sleeping in a rollout in a bedroll when we're having calving heifers, just trying to keep things alive, and doing things like that. People don't see that. Like, we care more, but I also think we're just more associated with it because we've seen that circle of life closely.
Yeah. And
so we, me and my wife have had this conversation a lot because she grew up in Fort Worth, so she wasn't really around it either. Yeah. And I take it just as hard as anybody, but I don't. It is what it is to me.
Yeah.
And so it's just the life I've kind of
grown
up around.
I feel like ranchers have to intentionally, like, it's not like you just don't connect. It's not like you don't care about the animal, but you intentionally have to think about, okay, hey, look, I am running a business, right? Mm-hmm. And this cow is going to feed a family at some point, and I'm going to do everything that I can to make sure that this cow is healthy, has a good life, and then serves its purpose.
That's right.
And that's it, right? But I think you intentionally have to, because you see a little calf, it's really hard not to be like, oh, this little
the
cute
cutest
baby.
things in the world, man.
Yeah. And so I agree with you, man, because as I'm buying my first set of cows, I'm in the process right now. I'm getting 7, and then and I splurged and got a bull too. I probably didn't need to, but I did. And so it's like, I'm going to have to really fight about not thinking of them as pets, right?
Yeah.
And not thinking of them as that, because ultimately, like, I'm going to have to part ways with them, because that's a part of it. And so, again, I think I commend ranchers, because you have to, like, raise them up like a mama. Yes, the cows, the good mamas do a good job of that, but you have to intervene a lot, especially, like you said, with heifers, and you got to help them. You got to help them birth. You got to help them, teach them how to be a mom, teach them all of those things, and then you got to let them go. Yeah. Like, that's harder than what I think people give y'all credit for.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, no. I was going to say, well, just a little quick deal on that. Yeah, a lot of people are like, "Oh, do you name your cows?" And I'm like, "Well, absolutely not."
No, you can't.
Because we may name some bulls or whatever. You got old Bud, or you got old Beach Nut or whatever. And you get some things like that, old Bones. You get old Bones, or name some bulls, because you're going to keep them around. And your cow, most people, your cows, you want them to stay around for 8, 10, 12 years. Yeah. But your calves, which, like I said, they're the cutest things. I'm not going to go out there, excuse me, and name them Charles and Earl and Karen
Coco.
And whatever. Coco. I may name some of them Karen if they're not nice to me, but
a bunch of assholes.
A bunch of asshole calves. But like that, you don't do that, because that's number 12, that's number 421, whatever. And because, like you said, it is. It's. I mean, look, everybody's. You get maybe more accustomed to it and things like that. But it is,
So again, a dumb question. So you have, how many bulls do you have in operation?
Oh man. Well,
what's the ratio?
Yeah.
Like, it's probably more on a ratio basis, right?
Yeah, so one benefit to Wagyu is most breeds is about 1 bull per 20 head.
Okay.
Maybe, depending on your pasture, your terrain, like some places they might run 1 bull to 12 head.
Imagine that's your job. Your job.
Banging 20, bro.
20 you. I got you.
Yeah. It'd be a pretty good life.
About it.
and then you get pulled off and like, we're going to feed you everything you want to get you fat so that you can get your breed, so you can get your clothes back, get your energy. Yeah.
And then they'll put you on your own lot. You got your own space and you do your own thing.
So you're telling me bulls is the best species to be?
You don't live real long, but yeah, well, some of them,
it's a good short life.
The Wagyu bulls last a while.
What's their effective life essentially?
So Wagyu bulls, like I've got some that are out breeding right now I've got five bulls right now that are out breeding that are over 10 years old, which is real. Ridiculous. Like most commercial back then, I don't think I ever kept another bull past like 7 or 8.
Okay.
What's the reason behind that? Why don't they last very long?
Well, they just kind of have a tough life, and they have a lot. It's not
Doesn't
tough.
Sound like it.
It's not tough life. That's a bad way to say it, but their fertility kind of starts going down when they get older in the other breeds, and we haven't seen that in the Wagyu. Now, those bulls that I have out, like I've got those in some of my smaller lease pastures. I only have like 15 head or 10 head.
Don't work them so hard.
That happens in Salina now. Like up in Sherman or up Pawhuska, like I wouldn't turn those bulls out on that. Got 2,000 acre pastures, but yeah, so that is one of the benefits of the Wagyu, and they'll breed. I'll put 1 bull out with 30 head of Wagyu, and but that's that, and they'll last longer, and they'll breed more cows. So it's a big benefit there.
Does that happen naturally? Like when you say put them out there, are you having to guide the process along?
They know what to do. That's one of my favorite days is turning bulls out because they are jacked.
They know.
Because you'll pull them out because typically
we have specific breeding seasons.
When do you after they calf, when are they able to breed again?
Yeah, so typically a cow can get bred. It depends, but generally they can get bred probably within 45 days after they have a calf.
Okay, and they can still
that's
still
pretty quick
milk,
if everything's perfect. They're in good shape and got all the mineral they need, and the grass or protein's good. But generally, like we turn bulls out. I turn bulls out. I've actually moved it up a little bit because I feel like our seasons are changing. But we turn out an AI, so I do an artificial insemination, which I do we'll generally do around middle of November.
Okay. And
then we'll turn bulls out 1st of December.
Okay.
And I only do a 75-day breeding period there. Okay. And then in May, so we just did an AI on May 4th.
So is that when you're checking, and if they weren't bred, then you'll AI, or if they don't get bred?
Yeah, so everything that we're breeding should have a little baby calf on its side, and we hope that calf is 30 days plus or something. We'll go ahead and do it. Hopefully they're 60 days or something like that. But they will breed that early. It's just it's a little bit tougher because you think he's coming.
It's kind of hard when a baby's watching you. It's kind of awkward.
Here's how much of a city softy I am. You're sitting here talking about AI, and I'm like, artificial intelligence.
Yeah. Oh, yes. I was actually.
So we send out ChatGPT out to the pasture, right?
Yeah, we actually did that. I was meeting some of my wife's family for the first time, and me and this guy got to talk about AI, and that's what it's her, and now we're buddies, but we get talking, but he's like, "Oh man, I heard AI," and we get talking. I didn't even know I wasn't even thinking about it like that.
So he's talking this, and you're talking.
We were yes.
Yeah. It was a 30-minute conversation. Yes. We were not talking about 30 minutes
talking about the different deal. It was great. It was great.
That's interesting. I didn't know AI could write papers too. That's wild.
Yeah,
that's hilarious. All right, so you've been doing it for a couple decades now, right? So I think you and I are same. What year did you graduate high school?
03.
Okay, so we're exactly the same age. All right, so you've been doing this for some time now. How have you seen the overall cattle industry change since you got in? Now you got into a niche market when you dove in, but you're still in it every day. You're still at sale barns. You're still talking to guys. So what have you seen change over the last 20 years, and maybe even more specifically the last 5?
Yeah, it's definitely a very segmented industry. You have your ranchers, you know, and then you have guys that buy the calves, and they're going on their growers basically to kind of shorten up terms, and you have your finishers, and then you go from there to your distributors that distribute the product and do all that stuff. So it's very segmented. I will say it's definitely going more. I think as we just get more populated, it's going more towards the bigger producers. It's very hard when you're running cattle all the way through. It's very hard. Numbers matter. The number of head that you have really matters. And so to go back to your question, the biggest thing that I've seen when COVID came on, that was the biggest change in the industry that I've seen. And we had actually just quit selling beef direct to consumers and online. We just quit because it was.
Which, by the way, thank you for that, because I literally side story, and please, I want to finish this thought, and I hate to interject, but grew up Central California, and there tri-tip is the cut of meat. Like, that's for some reason in Texas, it's like, what? That's trash, right? But in California, everybody loves it. In Santa Maria style, you grill it, but you slow grill it. It's phenomenal. And true story, we bought, because I met your brother first, and we bought 4 tri-tips from y'all. Went out to the ranch in Salina, pulled it out of the freezer, and I cooked it for my whole family who was still living in California before they had moved out. And I cooked it on the green egg, and they about fell out of their chair because they were like, "This is by far the best tri-tip that I have ever had." Like, not even close. And there's a big cattle ranch out there, Harris Ranch, that sells a bunch of beef, and they've got good meat, and we got used to that. And then it was like, this was a whole new level. And then y'all stopped selling it direct to consumer, and now I'm like, I got nothing to offer you. Now I got to go to Costco, and I got to buy meat from Costco. So thank you. I appreciate you.
Thank you, and sorry. So it was wild. It was just the shipping had got to be ridiculous. If I could sell direct to people coming out to the ranch and buying it, that'd be awesome. So I mean, that is something to look at, and I'm still looking at. But everything costs money. You know? So at that point, we had like a full-time lady and then like 2 part-time, and you're shipping Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday because you didn't want to get into the weekends. Yeah. And then like the insurance, it was, again, just a lot of different things that go into it. So, and we were doing really well with our distributors that were going direct to restaurant. And so, kind of crunched the number and said, look, right now, let's just shut her down. And then COVID hits. And then like everybody
wanted it.
Where'd I get beef? Where'd I get beef? And so we're like, well, let's crank her back up, let's start her back up. And I mean, it went gangbusters, and which was great. Yeah. And but again, the shipping, like we shipping to California, New York, it was brutal. I mean, because look, if I tell you I'm gonna sell you something, even if it's not my fault, it doesn't get there, you're gonna get your product. Yeah. So several people, we had to ship product. They might buy $600 worth of meat, and I have to ship it 3 times, because it was getting there and it was thawed out, or it wouldn't make it, or whatever. Yeah. And they insured that, and they kind of quit. So that was wild. I really enjoy selling direct to consumer, and I wish that everybody in Salina, Frisco, Prosper, Gunner, everybody around would just give me a call and just be like, hey, you want to buy some beef? Because it would be awesome. But
if only you knew someone that had some like storefront space in downtown Salina that you could have a little butcher shop or something.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool if I knew somebody.
Let me call around and see if I can find something for you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, maybe we can partner up on something like
that.
That'd be good. Let's do it.
Let's go.
You mentioned COVID and how it disrupted the industry. So I'm somebody, again, city softy, and I basically get my meat 100% from the grocery store. So I show up. Pound of ground beef's on the shelf. I pick it up. I go. What's going on behind the scenes to get that meat to the shelf? Yeah. What has to be involved so that something like COVID comes around, or a big storm, or and disrupts that? What's all involved in that to get that meat on the shelf?
Well, to your point earlier about all the workers and all that stuff that you don't think about, there's a ton of them that get to that point. And so, I mean, basically, you get these cattle after they're finished out, they're going to get on a truck, and these truck drivers are amazing people, man. I can't believe how many hours they put in, stay legal, and to get all that to get it to the processor. get to the processor. You got people that are unloading these animals. They have every processor has a government of basically, if I can't remember, I'm drawing a blank right now.
Is it FDA?
FDA official,
or USDA or
USDA. Sorry, yeah. But they have USDA like
certification.
Yeah, people there watching these cattle, make sure, and then they come through and then they start the harvest process. And there's so many people that take. There's just a line of people. They've got it down to an art. But I mean, as far as, yes, you are killing an animal, but it is about as humane and as clean. These plants are clean, and they're really, I mean, it's pretty rigorous, but there's just tons of workers in there who are busting their humps. And so they obviously have, everybody wants steaks, but talking about ground beef there or whatever. So, I mean,
that's a majority of the meat, right?
Majority of the meat is ground. Yeah, your steaks are only if the whole animal was made of steaks, I'd be a rich man. Because these Wagyu steaks sell like gangbusters, But it's just. But you get the ground beef, they go there. So that processing plant may actually not grind. So they'll put it all in these boxes, and then another truck will show up and they'll take it over to the neighbor bar, that grinds it up. They grind it up, put it in packagings, and then it gets shipped to the. Yeah. Then it gets back on a truck and goes to wherever it's going to go.
Yeah, so any kink in that chain, man, that's a lot of steps.
Yeah, so that was where COVID,
labor, distribution, transportation, processing, the whole.
Well, just think about like where the packaging comes from, and that's a whole different plant. So if that comes from here and it gets shut down, well, then you don't have anything to package. Well, if a machine goes down and then you can't get the part because that place got shut down. I mean, there's so many things, and that's not just our industry. That's unique to that, but it's everything. But there is a tremendous amount of people. And one thing I want to say is that, like, I this week I was up in Pawhuska, Oklahoma, up in the Flint Hills, one of my favorite places on earth, and I was there, and I went to the Panhandle to check on some stuff, and I was down north of Abilene, so I made a big loop. And the people in this industry, and this is our busiest time of year right now. I've got bulls leasing out, going everywhere. So I've got trucks going to Wyoming, Montana, New Mexico. You got to get health papers, health certificates. You got to work with vets. You have to work. It is the coolest people. I mean, this industry is the greatest people. Yeah, everybody's got some bad people in their industry, but it's such a community where you can help each other. I can pick up the phone and be like, hey, I know I hadn't talked to you in 3 years, but I really need some help. Can I hold some cattle over at your place overnight or whatever? Sure, no problem. Or can I borrow a trailer to do that? Whatever. I'm happen to be in here. It is amazing, and it's pretty special to be part of.
Well, it's an industry that's not tainted by. It doesn't seem to be tainted by the social media and the big fame. Like, it's just good, solid people helping each other out, great relationships. And again, you're not getting the praise. Your industry is the offensive line of society, right? You're doing the most important work, but you don't get any headlines for it.
I think if you're doing it, like in your case, right? It was like I tried something and I didn't love it, and I was just called back to it. Like, you're doing it because it's more of a calling. Like, it's something that like God's instilled in you to do it, and you're doing it because you love it. Like, yes, are you doing it for the money? Likely not. Is there opportunity if you do it the right way and you're innovative and you do things? Yes, but you're not doing it because of.
Yeah, there's other easier ways.
There's much easier ways. That's a great way
that's a good point. We're like, I was talking to a good buddy of mine up in the Panhandle, and we went to college together, and him and his father-in-law and his wife, their family. It was kind of actually weird how it worked out that they feed our cattle for us up there, and like I said, they're just the best people. But they also just have a love for what they do, and there's like yes, everybody wants to make money and everybody wants to make more money, but it's kind of a weird deal, like I said, because we just say it's in the blood, because there is no greed there. I mean, you want to make a little bit, but you also want life to be good for you and me and everybody, and it's pretty cool.
It's a very community mindset.
Yeah, and we talk about this a lot on the show. Right? Like the benefits from just serving others and being there for others. You think that, hey, I'm putting myself out, I'm gonna be without because I'm giving it to somebody else, and that's completely opposite of that. And especially, I think if our communities replicated what your industry does, in, hey, like, I'm gonna help you out. Everybody's my neighbor, and I'm gonna help you out, whatever you need. And you talk about trailers, you talk about, I mean, like, I'm already seeing this. Like, guy, I've literally never done it, and hey, look, borrow my trailer whenever you want. Hey, you need a hay trailer? Oh, hey, I'm cutting hay this week. Do you need me to pull some bales out for you? I mean, like everybody's just it's such a cool community. And if we had more of that outside, man, I can't imagine how much better this planet would be. Yeah. Because again, look, I need enough for my family and I need to provide a good life, but it's not about necessarily the material things that we have. It's about the intentionality we have, within our family, with our kids, parenting, with our wife, and then what comes out of it. You know what I mean? And it's not about what I have. It's, again, what you put into it. Man, I wish, again, that's why I think I'm drawn to it. It's more the people as much as it is actually doing it. So,
yeah, when talking about preparedness, this is Tyler and I are good representations of maybe two different approaches to this mentality of wanting to be prepared for in case a COVID happens or in case a storm happens and I'm not able to access. So Tyler's taking it on himself. He's going to actually buy cattle and he's going to, do that whole thing. And he's going to be very proactive. I'm probably never going to do that. I'm probably just always going to be a softie. But what can people like me do to be less reliant? And not to say that going to the grocery store is bad. I'm not saying that. But how can I be more prepared in case something does happen? How can I find people in my community that I can go straight to the source? I don't have to be so reliant on all these systems in place. What can somebody like me do, and what can I look for? That's
a great question. And what I go back to is just like life's all about networking, right? So now you know me, right? So you just stay in touch or just call, heck, you don't even stay in touch. You can just call me. We know each other now, so it doesn't matter. But like in your community, just kind of be aware of who's around and whatever, because producers like me, they would prefer just to sell direct to guys like you. So, okay, if the grocery store, if another something happens again, you can't go to the grocery store. You go in there and you're like, hey, I need some ground beef for my kid, because heck, we all know we got kids, but they're a bunch of ground beef, know, and or if you can't get chicken or whatever. So just kind of look around. There's other smaller places that may not be local. These small towns, go Trenton to Blue Bonnets. You can go over to Hess's Meat Market over in Munster, and there's places like that. But then there's also guys like me. There's plenty of them. Like he'll be one with seven head if he wants to feed all those out himself and sell them to individuals. That's a guy right there. And so you just kind of stay in touch. Now, the hardest part about that is keeping it freezer space, and then people that have the upfront money on to buy a whole animal. It's definitely cheaper in the long run. Yeah. But you got to have a freezer, a big one, probably at least 20 cubic feet if you're going to buy a whole animal. Yeah. Buy half, probably 14, something like that, and then you got to have the money up front to do it. But again, you can partner up with people. You can do things. Eventually, one thing I've always thought would be really cool is like just to have like almost a monthly subscription. But like say in Salina there, if you just put in like you could do like a storefront, but you almost just did like a month. You're going to buy a half a cow and it's going to cost you this much a month, and you just pay us that much a month. Yeah. And you can come in and we can pull it out of the freezer, whatever you want to.
Yeah, he's got those services like Butcher Box in Omaha, but
that's a little different. Yeah, this is more community based.
Yeah, exactly. That's my point. And Butcher Box is like some entity I don't know who. I don't have any clue. But the community aspect you're talking, I would much rather go
other families. Yeah, and you say, hey, we're going to go in, we're going to buy a cow, and then but now we just pay monthly, and monthly we go pick up.
You almost have like a locker or something.
I'd much rather. Yeah,
and you go in there and you put in your order online, and it draws it out. Or I don't know how to do all the computer stuff. My wife can figure that out.
I'd rather shake the hand of the person that I'm getting it from.
But that's the deal. You can always look around, and I don't know. I shouldn't say always, but where you live at, definitely, and where most people. Most people are close to a small community. Yeah. But heck, now you can find anything online. Everybody's got some kind of website. You can go on there and look at that, and just reach out to somebody that's a local rancher or farmer. They're dairyman. They're raising cattle. They're raising chickens. You can always get eggs out there. And I would recommend everybody, honestly, eggs are, getting expensive, but if you can find some people that do local egg delivery and stuff like that, that's a good one for when it happens.
Do you buy local eggs?
No.
All right, I'm gonna set you up. So one of our neighbors, like literally our entire neighborhood, gives eggs, comes by every week, picks up the cartons, drops off new ones.
I love it.
Telling you it's the way to do it.
It's cool, and they're way better.
Way better. And you don't have to refrigerate them. And you literally just put them on the counter.
Yeah. That's what. See, that's
stay forever. Yeah.
That's the type of community that I feel like people are waking up to wanting to get back to a little bit. Yeah. Yes, we can still have our modern conveniences, but I think food and different industries, things getting back to and supporting local, supporting people that we know, supporting our community, and being good leaders where we live, and not going just and again, I keep saying it, not being so reliant on systems.
I think you brought up a good point. Is what you can do is you can, like Cade's saying, go find those local ranchers that you can either buy a cow from, take it to it's not that difficult, right? It was before I did it, and I just recently I split a cow with another guy. And
he called me. He was like, and I was like, oh no, Joe, I just talked to him.
No, literally, I just got on the phone with you, and then he called me, and I was like, did you just talk to? Yeah, it was weird. He goes, no, I didn't know. But what you can do now is you can find some of these ranchers, and again, like you said, online, web, whatever it is, find some of these ranchers, go in with a family or 2 or 3, whatever it is, and then buy it. But if you support them now and you start equipping them and give them the opportunity to make a little bit of revenue so that they can even grow their operation a little bit, so that they've got some of that built in, support them now so that, hey, look, if there's a time you invest in that relationship, you start to build community there. And then a time where it's like, hey, I mean, I can't buy anything. I need something. Now you've already got that established. Yeah. Go support them now. Don't just go to them when you need something.
That's right.
Well, and it's not even having the lack of, but now a lot of people are tight with their budgets and inflation. And so cutting out all those, if I can go straight to the source, maybe up front, like you said, it's going to be a little more expensive, but over time, I'm going to save money that way.
Right. So walk us through, and don't use real numbers necessarily, but like, for example, like if you sell a cow at $1 a pound, right? And I know obviously it's more than that right now, but if you sell at $1 a pound and you're buying it at the store, and really $1 a pound is for the whole cow, not just the meat that is being cut out of it, right? So walk us through, okay, and then you go to the steak and buy a USDA prime steak for $17 a pound, right? You think about that, and you think about the cost difference and all of the people that are involved in that, as opposed to going and buying direct or buying from locally. Yeah. So walk us through that kind of that markup, and you kind of did a little bit, I guess.
Yeah. So trying to think about how to phrase it, but basically, you can, if I, like right now, market's always changing. Cattle market is, I always like to say, it is people play in the stock market. I literally play in the stock market.
Yeah. You get a market update every day, right?
Every day. And I have there's programs you play for called Cattle Facts, and that you follow along, and that's how it's an integral part of my business. But so like way we have to figure on pricing and things like that is like you follow that Cattle Facts. Okay, if I were, since we do carry, we're kind of vertically integrated. I carry an animal, and if I were to just wean it and sell it to the next guy, what would I get? Okay, that's a basis price for me. So let's say like right now I could get like $1,400 for a weaned calf or something. So you got that, and then but we're going to keep it. So I got $1,400 into that, and then I'm going to feed it. Well, it's going to take me. It's going to be another, say 15 months, 16 months on feed. So at $4 a day, $3.50 a day. Well, then you got, I don't know, another $1,000 or whatever it is. Another $1,200-$1,400. So you got $3,000. You're at $3,000 right there. This is for an F1. Well, if it's a full blood, then you got, then you got another $1,000 of feed into it. So then you're at $4,000, or even of course the full blood, you sold that so for $3,000. So you just kind of have to break all it down. But then when you, like I said, when you break it down and you harvest it, like so the one that we sold, if I sell direct to individuals, so say you got a 1,500 pound animal hanging, you're gonna get like 60. I hate to say this on the deal because somebody's gonna say I'm ignorant, but it's Dude, I can't remember. It's like 64% of that, or 67% of that is what it is with the bone in. Once you bone it out, and you get 64% of that, and so like out of that, you're basically say it's a 1,500 pound animal, you may get 650 pounds of beef, right? So it comes down to, but even on that, like even on a Wagyu, if you're paying what you're paying, you're gonna get $6 to $8 a pound. Well, if you go to the grocery store and just buy a regular burger, it's going to probably cost you $6 a pound or something.
Regular
if you don't want
beef.
just like unless you buy the stuff that's you don't want to buy that's $3 a pound, but you go in there and you get that, and this is a high end. Well, then you're actually just paying $6, $8 a pound for the steak. That should be like a Wagyu steak, because we $48 a pound.
Or you can go to a steakhouse and you can pay $500 an ounce.
Yeah, you go to basically whatever I sell to a steakhouse for, they pretty much just double it and they throw it on their menu.
Yeah.
So to be clear, you're not selling direct to consumer anymore. You're just selling direct to restaurants.
I can still sell direct to consumer, but I do not do individual cuts direct to consumer right now.
Gotcha.
Because of I got me too thin on stuff.
Yeah.
And so basically what I do now is if I have some customers that have been around for a long time, and I can put them on a wait list, and they'll say, and I only do halves and wholes. And basically my process now, just because it's not, if things ever changed and if we didn't have the beef company and I was just selling direct to consumer like that, to individual, I would probably change some things up. But right now it's basically like, hey, y'all two want one, y'all can each get a half. I've got an animal to be ready in 3 months, or because I've already got a wait list. We do about 5 a month right now, and just for that, and that's just a small deal. But we harvest 70 head a month for our beef program right now. So
what's the ballpark cost on something like that?
Yeah, so if I do an F1, it's generally $5,000, and that's me taking it to the processor, dropping it off under y'all's name, and y'all deal with processor. Because processing can be anywhere from like $600 to $1,500, right? Depending on what you want to do. And I tell people I always tell people to go to that processor, talk to them, and look at what they can do. Because if you do the basic one, you may not utilize all your beef. But if you do it the right way, you might add $1 to a pound, but you might. I'm not going to have to buy a breakfast sausage. I'm not going to have to buy breakfast patty. Yeah. I can get, summer sausages. I can get these different deals. And,
well, I was just going to ask, I spend, the $6,000 on the product. How long-ish is that going to last somebody?
If you do a full animal, it depends on, obviously everybody's family is different, how much you utilize it. But a lot of people about a year.
Yeah.
Right at a year.
Wow.
Yeah.
So most people, I say half an animal, half a year, and then go on from there. And so it does. And then that's our full blood Wagyu that's like registered, DNA certified. Like, they're fed for a long time. I just took one in this week. We had 1,700 pounds. I'm excited to see that one on the rail and just see how the marbling did. But I sell those for 7,000. So
yeah.
But a majority of your customers right now are restaurants.
Correct.
You've got
that's just a side business that happened organically.
Take care of the community.
People in the community start calling me. I said, I can do that.
Yeah. No, that's cool. But okay, so now you have a distributor, or are you selling directly to the restaurants?
Both.
Okay.
We prefer, just because of the workload, man. It's and we're not big enough right now. Well, we're not big enough. The bigger, it's amazing how excuse me, guys, sorry about that. Transportation costs and all that kind of stuff, just in salary. If we double this year, you save $500,000 in one little area. It's amazing. But hold on a second. Sorry.
Oh, you're good. You're good.
So I'm sorry. Ask that question. Got distracted.
So as you're selling to restaurants, and then the amount of customers and using distributors versus
is restaurant ABC coming directly to you and saying
so here kind of how it works. When we first started, I would like work at the ranch and then like change clothes and go down to Dallas and walk in a restaurant and like to bring steaks in and some of you guys would be just complete jerks. A lot of and some of them be awesome.
Yeah.
And a lot of them, and of course you're going in there like probably their busiest time.
Yeah.
They're like not real.
Yeah, I'm working all day.
They're like, dude,
you work all night.
Yeah, they're like, dude, I'm just getting geared up to feed like 1,000 people. So, and so you just drop a steak off, and a lot of times you'd hear back from them. But so when we first started, we'd get the beef and we'd carry it over there, and we still do that with some restaurants, but generally we process the beef.
And so we outsource all processing. Right?
Correct. Yeah.
You don't do any
there's a place just south of Fort Worth we use. And we process the beef, and then distributors will come pick that up and take it to restaurants. Now, it's a process. Like so say if you own a restaurant, well, you may have you may only work with one distributor. And so then if we're not now most distributors we work with now, but you have to, there's a process to go through and just get in with them. Yeah. So, that's been a pretty cool deal.
It's kind of a random, but a general curiosity question, just as a business owner. Obviously it's to maximize profits when it comes to the business, right? You want to, reduce spend and increase, revenue. Is there you talk about being a community and is there any obligation, whether morally, whatever, to you where you're like, I don't mind paying a little bit more for certain things so that other people have an industry and other people have jobs and just, it's all an ecosystem that I can help, as a business leader, I can help provide people with jobs. Is there anything like that you kind of think about when you're thinking about your business?
I mean, I definitely try to spend money on locally.
Sure.
Locally.
Yes.
Definitely. It's something that me and my wife talk about regularly. Because I want people to, we like the community feel. That's the way I grew up.
Yep.
And everybody helped everybody. And if you have, and I'm not trying to, look, I go to Tractor Supply just as much as anything because they do have, it's more convenient and they have things. But in Salina, it's no longer there, unfortunately. But while Jim was still operating, we would still go into his store and maybe pay a little bit more. But he's been there forever, know him forever. And so there's things like that where you just go in and you try to support local and you try to help those people, not help them out because they're doing you a service that you need.
That's right.
But that's good being neighborly and that's being a good community. And I think Salina's done a really amazing job as fast as they're growing to really, hold on to that community feel. It's been pretty cool actually.
Yeah. You've gotten to feel a little bit like some of the events that Salina does, and it's totally different, man. Like,
and we've mentioned it a couple times, but I feel like people are hungry for that again. We kind of got away from that, and now if you're listening to this from New York City, maybe it's a little different for you. But I know for me, who didn't really grow up, I grew up in a small town, community, things like that, and then got to where I shop on Amazon and shop at big box store. But it's like, no, I want to start giving my money and spending my money on services of people I know and people that I can trust and people that I know are on a mission, to do good.
Yeah. And
again, I think COVID kind of woke up a lot of us to that.
Yeah.
We kind of got sleepwalking into these, whatever's convenient, whatever's easy, whatever's, cheap. Yep. And now I'm willing to spend a little bit more, exactly what you're talking about, because I know Jim and I want to support Jim and I know his kids. And that's what I think about now when I think of just community. And supporting local and supporting the ecosystem and where I'm from.
Well, a lot of that goes back to what Tyler was saying, kind of do it now, talk about buying from that guy now, because, maybe that if I'm going to, and I hate to, if you go to the big box store or whatever and you're buying from them and then all of a sudden you don't have the money, they don't care.
No.
Yeah.
But if I'm going to Tyler and I'm buying regularly and then all of a sudden I say, man, I've had a tough last 6 months, could you, 100%, dude. Yeah. If somebody calls me right now and I know them and I know they have a good heart and they're a good person and they're going through a tough time, I'll give them a shirt off my back, dude.
I love that.
Yeah. And I'll give them, I'll sling beef all day, whatever you need, whatever, your family need this, your family need that. Because that was the way I was raised. My mom and dad, I'm not the best person in the world, but I try to be and try to treat people the way I want to be treated. Just the golden rule, really.
None of us are the best people.
But
I love that.
What about? So you talked about being raised, right? And you talked about, hey, we're working all summer. Talk about the importance or the impact that being as a parent, exposing your kids, especially now, to being out and actually working and having responsibilities and like. Majority of the population lives in these metro areas, right? But exposure to that and wherever it starts, right? Whether it's like, hey, summer camp where they can go out and they can do something, but talk about the importance of being raised in a way that you were taught that, look, hard work actually produces results.
Yeah. This is a great question because me and my wife couldn't be two more opposite people. She was raised in what I consider a big city, and she thinks it's hilarious that I say Fort Worth's a big city. and I was raised how I was, and I wouldn't change anything on how I was raised. But the benefit to that is that we talk about it a lot, and she has two great parents, and I got two great parents, and both we had definitely different philosophies on raising kids, and but we talk about it regularly and say, you know, like there were some things I wouldn't change how I was raised, but there were some things that I wish I would have learned, you know, where maybe I felt like it put me behind. Like, I mean, heck, we didn't have cable. My dad got cable one time so we could watch the A&M Texas game, and then had the dish put up and then took it down the next month. You know, genuinely went to the fire station to watch the Aggies play the Longhorns. Yeah.
Oh, that's
which was awesome as a kid because I could go down a pole. You know, it was awesome, man. Running up and down the stairs. And they had stairs. Like nobody had stairs in their house when I was a kid. You know, that was But it's something that I very. We communicate a lot on because I'm like, I want my kids to know they can do anything they want to do, and I don't care what it is as long as they're happy, and I don't care if they, you know, yes, you want your kids you want everybody to make money and do all that stuff, and that's great. And I want to make more money just so I can give more for my kids. Who doesn't? But also, I want them to know if they want to go be an elk guide in Colorado their whole lives. Go for it.
Yeah.
If you want to go hunt gators in the swamp, go hunt gators in the swamp. If you want to move to New York City and go do something on a computer, which my wife does stuff on computers. I don't know what she does. She barely knows what I do. She's like, you know, we're like, I'm telling you, like she does something on a computer. People ask me, and I'm like, she's communications director. I mean, but she does something on that computer and sits behind it all day but you kind of take all those aspects and try to learn, because that's the word. I think if you choose like one path now, you know, it's hard because the world's moving so fast. And like y'all were joking around ChatGPT earlier, like, what's that going to do? I mean, is anybody going to have to do homework ever again?
That's what I'm saying. I know. That's what I'm saying. And that's it, right? Is we have so many conveniences, but there is something about, and again, I worked on buddies' ranches growing up, like, on a week, every other weekend or so. Yeah, it wasn't like I worked by any means. And so there's some things that, man, I learned later in life that I wish, like you said, I had learned earlier on. And most of it is the ability, and because of this preparedness series, I think it's important, is the ability to be able to do things with your hands and not rely just on technology to provide or ordering. But hey, if I'm going to fix something, I need to know how to do it with my hands. Yeah. If I need to grow something, I need to learn how to do it. As simple as it may be, having a garden in your backyard, a little potted garden, but like learning to do things with your hands, I think is really important, especially for the younger generation, because here's the thing, is technology is not going to replace electricians anytime soon. Not going to replace plumbers anytime soon. Not going to replace, well, it may replace framers. I don't know. They're doing these like 3D printed homes, whatever. But, you know, there's so many blue collar trades that and now we're starting as a society, starting to feel the impact of not having that. Right. And it's harder and harder, and it's more expensive. So I think it's really important. And I'm going to tell my kids, like, hey, look, if y'all want to, you know, be a subcontractor, I mean, you're going to make a killing in 20 years, because nobody's going to want to do it. Nobody's going to want to actually go out and swing a hammer.
Yep. Yeah. To me, if you're on the fence about college at all, I would go straight to a trade, learn like you're saying, Tyler, learn some sort of skill in that realm.
Yeah.
Because if you can get it in there early and build it up, I mean, you are setting yourself up so well, and now you're not $300,000 in debt on some school that you don't really use. So no, I totally agree that. Yeah. And I'm with you. I thought before I had kids, I would really care about what they chose to do one day, and I was gonna have this plan for them. So I could care less. I'm exactly like. Yeah. Whatever you're into, I'm getting behind you 100. Yeah. Now, as long as it's legal, obviously.
Yeah, I was definitely not that way. Yeah, I was the same way as you. Yeah, like, for sure.
I thought I was gonna have a laid out plan, but no, it's like my boys, my two older boys are so different in their abilities and their desires and what they into, and I'm just like, I thought I would care more than I did, and now I'm like, no, my youngest, he loves trucks and cars. Like, all right, I'm all in. Let's go do that.
Let's do that.
And so it's just, I'm with you. It's whatever they're into.
And one thing that's been really, my wife is, she didn't really grow up like doing a lot of manual labor or anything, but she really loves it. She loves.
Yeah.
I mean, we redid a house. We got married in Salina, and she did. I mean, I busted her butt. You know, she worked me under a table. You know, and I come home from work, and I'm like, golly, I just want to sit down for a minute. You know, like right
She's
now
out there
she's
tearing out tiles.
Right now she's like, hey, I want to build our daughter a playhouse, like. And she's like, "This is what I'm like. That's not a play. That's a house, you know. That's
When
like,
you have to pour
a
foundation for it. That's not
and
a
she's like,
playhouse.
yeah, but I want to do it myself, and I want to learn. Can you just teach me a couple little things, man? I showed her very little. She's out there. I mean, just you know, doing this. I'm like, that's pretty cool that she, you know, and I will say she tends to kill a lot of flowers and plants, but she tries.
Well, there's something in our DNA that we're ingrained with that, because Tyler and I talk about this. We sit at we have office jobs, and I'm like, man, I would love nothing more than to have to go out and work with my hands and do, you know, mow grass or build a fence or something. There's something about that that's so appealing.
Yeah, and that was me. Like I said, growing, you know, not growing up, but when I started back in this profession, like I started doing like just working on a ranch every day. Yeah. That's all I did, and I did that for 11 years basically. And then as the beef business grew, I kind of do both sides of it now, and it's kind of, there's a lot of logistics that go along. I mean, like I said, there's so many moving parts, and then keeping the beef business going and managing your supply chains and doing all that. So now I kind of do a little bit of both. But I used to love, you know, when I was a kid, going out there and we're doing during harvest or something, you pull up in a, you know, 2,000-acre field, and you cut down, you know, you get done and you get all that done, or you plow it under or whatever, and you're like, you see something.
That satisfaction.
It's such a satisfaction.
Yes.
Like my buddies in college, I remember I got one of my best friends, he called me, they were in Vegas, and it was like 2:00 in the morning, and I answered, and he goes, I knew your ass would be up. And he's like, what are you doing? And I was like, I'm plowing. He goes, dude, you went to college, man.
Yeah.
He's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I just love it, man.
Yes.
I was just out there. I was out there plowing pasture, had the lights on the tractor. I was like, wasn't tired, just coming out. You know, I lived by myself on the ranch. I mean, in the middle of, and I was one thing I got out of my system a little bit, because I was like, I just want to work and be left alone. And I lived up there for like 6-7 years by myself. And so if I was, you know, I didn't have anything better to do, might as well go work.
Get stuff done. So, no, I love that. And you know, he mentions we're in an industry that you could work 2 years on a project, and you may not be any closer to finishing that deal in 2 years than you were when you started it. And it's just like there's something about seeing progress done. Like I just built a gate, like something super simple, right? Like you know, cut in a gate into a fence, and it was just something about like, okay, I came, and there was a barbed wire fence, and I left, and there's a gate, right?
It's awesome.
It's done, right?
You got it.
There's something. It's like, okay, cool. Now I go, something was done today. But I totally agree. Being able to like go out and just see progress made, man. There's something about your soul that just like satisfies it.
There's a kid on YouTube. I don't know his account. He's like this dorky, probably mid-20s kid, and he goes and makes videos. He goes to like rundown parts of town, knocks on people's doors, and offers to mow their grass for them for free. And these I mean, we're talking 4, 5, 6 foot wheat, like the worst yards you can see.
Yeah.
And his camera work is terrible. The audio, so it's the worst quality videos, but it's 2-3 million views.
Oh wow.
What?
A video. He's got however many, because people are drawn to, because you get to see how bad it was, and then at the end you get to see the finished product. There's something about that satisfaction.
Well, that's with what y'all do. Yeah, with what y'all do, that would just wreck me, man. Yeah. My brain. I don't know if I could like, because the mental toughness.
It takes some getting used to, for sure.
You know, and my brother's kind of the same way, but on some of that stuff. But that would. I remember like probably talking about bringing that up. We took over a lease. I took over a lease one time, and it was just over. I knew it was going to be great, but it was just overrun, trees and getting that thing cleared and ready for cattle and fenced and all that stuff. Like I remember it. I mean, I'd come home and I'd just be covered in just. I mean, it'd be like dirt in every orifice. But then when I got done, it was like
Yeah.
Take that shower, and it's the greatest feeling.
Yeah, I go jump. I'd go jump in a. I was so dirty, man. I couldn't get in the shower. I had to go jump in the pond, dude.
Yeah,
it was bad. But when he got done, it was like, hell yeah, dude. This is the greatest feeling.
Yes.
I worked for a lady. I didn't do anything with animals, but it was all like maintenance at her farm out in Abilene. And man, it was hard work. But I tell you what, that was the most gratifying summer of work, just because it's just.
Yeah. Look. My favorite thing on the planet to do up to this point right now is mowing. And there's something so satisfying about having straight lines. It doesn't matter if it's 110 degrees outside or it's 60 degrees. But when you're done and that clean edge and straight lines, man, it's hard to beat.
You got your good zero turn?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, dude. There's nothing better than a zero turn.
Throw some headphones in, and I'm just checked out. Really all I got to worry about is straight lines.
If you really love labor, you get a push mower out there on your 4 acres.
I when I was like 16 or something, my dad got his first zero turn. Oh. And I came home. It was in the summer. I came home for football workout, and it was sitting there in the garage. It was beautiful. I remember seeing this thing. I was like,
it's like a Ferrari.
And I mowed 24 acres on that zero turn that day.
In
24 acres.
They say zero turns you can get up to like 4 acres an hour is what they say.
Same was a boss hog, dude. Oh. Well, I say the whole place was 24 acres, so it probably was. It was inside of the fence, so it was probably like. I'm trying to think of his place. Probably like 12. It was a lot. I mowed a bunch, but I mowed. He was so pissed and I didn't understand it when I was a kid because he wanted to do it.
Yeah.
And now I didn't understand it when I was a kid, but now I understand
virginity.
It. I apologized to him not too long ago. Like I was like, dude, I am so sorry. Like I was so like I thought first off I thought it was cool, and I thought you'd be happy that I did all this. Like I jumped on there and I worked the entire day. I didn't even get asked. And I did all that, and he was like. I remember he was pissed.
You robbed me.
And I robbed him, man. And like, that's funny when you get older, you realize like that'd have been his like chill out, peace time.
My 9-year-old son, because I got him on the zero turn at 6. And so, and I just thought it was like, he's got to learn. And we argue every weekend about who gets to mow. And I'm like, nah, look, I'm going to teach you to edge. You can edge.
Yeah, that's where you need to put it. Yeah.
That's why my dad always made me do that.
Yes, I'm telling you. But we argue every single. And my wife's like, maybe I should just, nah. She says, all the other moms in the neighborhood, they all mow and, get on the zero turn. And they say it's great. It's like, nah, it's not that great.
Say, I've got one thing.
Yeah, that's one thing here.
My mom loves to tell a story about when I was a kid and I was edging and where we lived, it was just like rocky. It was rocky edge, and then rocks are beating up. So I like one day I put on shin guards.
Yeah, soccer shin guards.
Put on these like baseball shin guards, dude. I had full on baseball catcher shin guards. So I put these things on, and I'm edging, and I get it all done, and I'm like, I was like, dude, my mom says I was probably 10, 12, 11, something like that. I said, screw this. I went and mixed up a batch of Roundup. And I just sprayed all the edges around everywhere that I had to weed eat or edge. So like 3 days later, the whole sucker's like everything's dead. Green, and everything else dead. And my mom, what in the world? And I was like, I sprayed it with Roundup, so I didn't have to do that again. My dad and my mom were like, well, yeah.
It works. It
was his job. It's brown smart. Doesn't look good, but also like but that's the other deal. Like everybody irrigates their yards and stuff. And I told y'all, we just moved over to Fort Worth with my wife and the beef companies. That's where we process and all that stuff. And I've got stuff spread out, so it's easier for me to kind of get around. Everybody irrigates their yards. And I just started thinking the other day, like, water's an issue.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I got it moved in there, and it's like, all right, well, it rains. So my deal says, it catches the sensor or something. So we're not going to water today. This because you didn't do this, save 46 gallon, this saved 300. And I'm like, that's a ton of water.
Yeah.
Well, that was like growing up, we didn't do that because like we were like jacked when it got whenever it got hot enough the yard didn't grow because that was one less chore to do. So like whenever I sprayed that, it might have been green and brown where I sprayed that Roundup, but it wasn't brown where that Roundup was for very long, because the rest of the yard got brown. Living here in Texas, you get July, it's toast.
Yeah.
that was something I'd never thought about though. Yeah, like you were talking about, kind of getting this. Heck, I've just been living over there a little bit, and that's the first time I've realized it. And like, heck, I've been watering my yard for a year.
Yeah, last year we felt it big time with the drought and as hot as it was. But yeah, back where I'm from, Same deal. California, everybody irrigates, real sandy soil, and so everybody's got to have green yards. Well, we went through they've been going through a drought for a long time, and no joke, there was companies that popped up that were grass painting companies because you couldn't water. They would literally go and paint your grass green because everything was dead.
Maybe that's something we ought to do.
Hey,
I don't know.
well, Vegas,
Texas,
they do what?
go.
Turf in Vegas, right?
Yeah, it's
You can
all
look at
turf.
grass.
Yeah, you
Okay.
can. Yeah, but well, man, Cade, I appreciate the time.
Yeah,
man.
this was
has been
fun.
so fun, and I learned a ton, and I just appreciate, man, just the wisdom and all that you've shared about your industry, and I think it's insightful for our listeners to understand the complexities that go into just you going to the store and buying meat or going to a restaurant and buying a burger. There's a lot that goes into it. And man, I'm fascinated by what you do and the business model behind it. And for real, let's talk about that butcher shop.
Let's do it.
Come on. But I appreciate you, man. And is there a way, and I want to be in, and please say no, don't. But if you're in like the North Texas area, is there a way to you know what restaurants in North Texas can they go and support and buy?
Yeah, how best can we
them?
support what you're doing? Is yeah.
Oh, I mean, yeah, they're in North Texas. I mean, you can get up here we're in like 107 restaurants, and I'll be honest, I kind of hate when people ask me because no. Well, I don't hate it because I don't know them all anymore.
Yeah.
Like it's
Well,
weird
that's a
because
lot,
used to it
yeah.
be, but like someone like Dean Fearing down at the Ritz, Fearing's restaurant.
Yeah.
Dean has been our longest supporter. Dude's awesome. He's a freaking rock star. So you can go in there, but if we want a little bit cheaper option, you can go down here to Haywire.
Haywire's, and that's
You're in Haywire?
Yeah,
Haywire's,
the Wagyu steak is them.
And so
That is one of my favorite restaurants.
Haywire's
in this area.
super
You
cool
probably
place.
ate one of his
Yes.
steaks.
And they serve some
Thank
more
you.
stuff. Yeah, and I should have brought y'all some steaks. That's my
Man,
bad, guys. I'll get y'all hooked up. I've been.
I wanna
all
come-
over the
Well, I
place
do
today,
have.
but
I did give Ben some of your jerky, which
Yeah.
obviously that's kind of the last cut. You dehydrate.
It's
that,
delicious, though.
But for a jerky, this is the best jerky that I've ever had, and
I want to, and you can tell me no, but I want to bring my 6-year-old up and just see what y'all are.
Yeah.
See what y'all are doing.
holler at me. We'll do it.
I'd love to.
how much how much cowboying do you get to do these days?
Yeah. So used to it was 7 days a week.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, it depends on the season, but like tomorrow is our big like into we have what we call spring and fall works.
Yep.
So we're ending our spring works tomorrow. So everybody's up. I have like the whole crew up at the Sherman Ranch, all the hired guys and anybody who basically a lot of the community guys rope with and do things like that. They're all going to come up. We'll rope and drag and brand all the calves. And then some of the guys will play the guitar and play, get a little band, and then we're cooking some food and do all that. So,
See, like I said, when I grow up, I want to be you because that
that's
literally.
cool, but I will say
That's what twice a year you get to do that.
we do that twice a year. I mean, we do all the other stuff like the brand, but we do always finish it up there at Sherman. And but my big deal, like going back to what you're asking, I've had 3 kids under 2, and so I got a girl that just turned 2, and I got twin boys that are 8 months.
Okay.
And so that has been a major
I got
hindrance
twins,
in
so
my.
I feel you,
it's
brother.
tough.
Yeah.
And so that has been that with our beef company has been really growing. So it's a goal of mine this year to get back to it, to try to put at least 2 days a week to doing that. But right now it's probably been like maybe, it depends on the season. Like right now we're busier in spring and fall works, maybe 1 or 2 days. But then other than that, it's been like maybe, once every 2 weeks or something.
Yeah.
But we've been really growing a lot and doing all that stuff. So,
Yeah, man. It's I just, gosh, dude, that's that community aspect, right? Like there's probably neighbor ranchers, they'll come out and feed them. It's just a whole deal. And here's the last like cliche. You're gonna be like, oh, dude, but like Yellowstone, right, is one of those things, and I think that it may be unrealistic in some aspects, and it's far fetched, but one thing that I do think that it has done, and I think Taylor Sheridan's done a good job, is at least bringing some attention to the beauty that comes with ranching. Mm-hmm. So what's your kind of thoughts, and I don't know if you've watched it or not, but it'd be like, us watching a show about commercial real estate. It's like when you get home, it's like, hell no. Like, I don't want anything to do with this. But what is kind of the impact of that show been on your business?
I think I don't. The part of my business that's actually impacted the most has been the horse sales.
Oh, yeah,
because we me and Bryce, he's my cowboy, and he runs the day-to-day stuff, and we went to A&M together, and so we ranch on horses during the day and rope on them at night, and so they get a lot of use. And so Taylor Sheridan with his whole deal, a lot of people have done that, and I don't know if it's, but it seems that's what everybody says because of Yellowstone. Horse sales have really gone up, and so that's been good.
Yeah.
And I think maybe some people are seeing the beauty of it, which I always, like we were kind of talking about earlier about, like different parts of like I said, I was in Pawhuska. You run a cow per 8 acres up there. Then I went out to West Texas, and it's like 20 cows per section, towards 640 acres. But I always say it's whenever we're like tomorrow morning, we'll always be like we got this cool ridge. We'll get horseback, and sun will be coming up or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I always say this is what everybody thinks we do for a living, and we do it. But it's not every day. But I also said I think most people think we sit here on a horse and watch the sun come up and then turn it around, and then watch it go down. And it's just green grass all the time.
That's right.
It's easy, and it's not. And that's the deal. Most people don't understand because they're like, well, why don't you just turn your cows out and let them go? Yeah. And then you don't have to think about them. Well, no, like. There's all kinds of stuff that goes into it, and the grass, and grasses aren't always there. But Yellowstone has been. I've watched a couple episodes, and that's really about it. But it's been a cool. Like it definitely is. Like I think
awareness at least.
Yeah, because there used to be a lot more like Western shows back in the day. Heck, I still watch them all.
Away from it,
and then so it's kind of cool that a lot of it's happened, and it's a lot of people in Fort Worth coming in and doing all that stuff.
And like I said earlier, I think it's just an appreciation of what y'all are doing and how much really is involved, and so if nothing else, it's just exposure to the appreciation of what y'all do.
Yeah, and I mean the risk of being a ranch hand, and if you fight, then you're going to go to the train station, you're going to get murdered. And
that's
you're
right.
That's
real.
It's real. It happens at every ranch.
Yeah, I've actually had several people ask me that. Like, is that real life? I'm like, yes, I kill people regularly. Regularly. This guy pissed me off.
If they see something that they shouldn't, then gone.
We definitely brand all the help. You come out tomorrow, I'll brand your ass.
Yes, I'm in.
Whiskey is always on tap. Like we always have a whiskey in our hand. Like no matter what time of day, no matter what we're doing. I love it, man. Well, hey, appreciate you, and definitely maybe giving you a call for some coaching here in the next few months for sure. But much appreciated, man. And again, A-Bar-N. Make sure if you are in North Texas and you've got restaurants everywhere else, check the menu. If you see a A-Bar-N cut of beef, order it. You will not be disappointed, I promise you. And if you are a restaurant that does not carry it, hit them up, reach them out. Y'all got a website. There's some contact info on there. Reach out to them. Make sure you're carrying their beef, because if you are not, then you are behind the other guys.
Or if you're an individual that wants to buy, just you can get on the website and email me, because I like doing that for people. I mean, it's good. It's better for us, and I think it's better for people if they want to do that and they kind of know that too, because we can get you good. It's a great product. And, and
I just did it. I will attest to it, man. I cannot wait, and I've already cooked 2 ribeyes, phenomenal. So again, if you look at it from an economy standpoint, you are going to save a ton of money in the long run. It's an upfront investment, but you are going to save a ton of money, and you're going to get a much higher quality beef for a less per pound price than you would at the store. So
love it.
Highly recommend it.
Has nothing to do. One thing I'll throw in before we sign off. Big announcement coming up, not next week, but the following. So stay tuned for that. Cade, man, really appreciate you though. This was awesome.
This was great, guys. I had a great time. Appreciate it.